let's say you have a nice property, you want to add things to it. Once you have the strategy in place, like we said, there's these knobs you're going to constantly be turning to fine tune. But once it's in place, then as you add amenities, being able to properly price for that in the future becomes so much easier to modify. Welcome back to another episode of the Hideaways Show Behind the Curtain Edition. Joined as always by my partner in crime, Louisville, Richmond, Seattle, San Diego, Tokyo. City you want to come up with native, Mr. Mike Sebastian. Mike, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I was trying to master my Japanese right before we got on so I could give you the true Tokyo welcome, but I failed.
I knew you were. I knew you were. I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, how do I come out with a solid intro like I did the last podcast? You know, the Red River Gorge legend himself, and then I'm like, well, let's do a spinoff because Mike's from basically everywhere. You know, you talk to anyone, you can just cater to where they're from. Like, oh yeah, I was born and raised there. I was
Yeah.
from around there.
It just depends on what your goals are with that conversation as to how you say that.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
like, have you ever been to Tokyo?
I have been to Tokyo.
You have?
Yeah. I have never resided in Tokyo, but I was there for a couple of weeks.
I'm not kidding. I have never
Yeah.
been. So, was it?
Crazy town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get a short-term rental there?
We should not go short-term rental.
Okay. No, we'll mark that one off the list.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of unique things we can do with it. So,
Yeah. The time difference alone, man. I just imagine like answering messages even from like cleaners at 2:00 in the morning.
right.
No.
Right. That'd be interesting with the wife and the family here to be like, hey, we're doing our quarterly meeting in Tokyo. I'll be
Yeah.
back in 3 weeks.
Yeah. That or, hey, Pipehurst, I'm flying to Tokyo. I'll
Uh-huh.
be right back.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
But I do know people do the international stuff and have, you know, and now Grant, I don't know if they necessarily do Tokyo, but
Yeah.
we have talked to a few people that do the international stuff. And I definitely think that's something that is interesting. Not something I'm interested in doing right this second, but
Yeah.
could be something we look at down
One
the
day.
road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, the only way we can continue to grow this show to bring on bigger and better guests is if you guys rate, review, and share the show. So, if you could take 2 seconds and leave us a quick 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, it would mean the world to us. But even better than that, we'll be able to reach more real estate investors and help them build out their dreams through unique short-term rentals. Now back to the show.
So, but we are not talking about Tokyo. We're not talking about international stays, as cool as that may sound. But what we are talking about today is revenue management and how to outperform the market with an automated revenue management strategy. So, before we dive into this fancy term of revenue management, Mike, what does that even mean? What does revenue management even mean?
So to me, like we've done so much work on the revenue management side. To me, it's basically like setting up a process for how you're going to manage the price of your rental. So in our industry, it's going to be your ADR. But what I like to do is like come up with a strategy. So if someone wants to book today, if someone wants to book for 3 weeks from now, if someone wants to book for next year at this time, right? What is the pricing strategy that goes behind that so that you can maximize both occupancy and your ADR? Because those are typically inverse. If you lower your ADR, you'll get better occupancy. If you lower your or increase your ADR, then you'll get lower. So that's how I set it up. And I did it in an automated format, or at least we did it when we set up in an automated format so that the strategy would be implemented through a rule set that we put together so that it would discount as it got closer, it would increase as it got farther out. And then we would have seasonality based adjustments. We would have occupancy based adjustments. We would have certain days of the week that were higher or lower, and then certain days that had reservations around them that were higher or lower. Kind of reminds me, honestly, like what we went through the other day of lenses, like all these different lenses. It's like, all right, what are we going to do to the price if it's next week? Or what are we going to do to the price if it's between a Tuesday and a Thursday that are booked? Right? Or what are we going to do to the price if it's October in Red River Gorge? Right? And there's all these different rules that you would apply to it. And then once you compound those on top of each other, I'll say that you and I have both been shocked at the prices that you can get when you set it up correctly.
Right. Yeah, I do know there are people, and Mike, I think you were one of these people for a little bit of time where you were doing it manually on your first couple of properties. And it's not to say that you can't do that. I will say it's a lot more work. And for the price of some of these automated pricing tools, it's just to me it makes total sense to utilize these tools. And start to learn your lows and highs, because
Yeah.
with revenue management, everyone always is like, oh, revenue management, it's Price Labs or it's Beyond Pricing or these different tools. And it's that
No.
Price Labs is a tool that helps with your revenue management
Yeah.
strategy, but there are so many other layers and,
Yes.
as were saying, lenses of revenue management that you need to look at it through, to where it's,
Yeah.
if you're talking about adjacency or seasonality, it's not as simple as Price Labs has a low, a base, and a max. And a lot of people are like, oh, we'll set my low, I'll set my base. This is an automated pricing tool. It's plugged into the market data. It's going to do it for me. And they kick their feet back and they relax. It's way more than that. And you really need to be able to understand, dive into an effective revenue management strategy that essentially, boosts your overall and maximizes your revenue potential for your property. If done correctly, you can definitely do that. And
Yep.
I will say it's one of those that I don't think it'll ever be perfect,
No.
especially with how frequently the STR markets and that just environment change every day, week, month, year, to where you just have to adapt and evolve your management strategy with that. And I think it's
Yeah.
different for each property as well. So
Yeah.
we can't, you know, we get a lot of last minute bookings for a 420 square foot cabins versus if we had a 6-6, like we're probably not going to get as many last minute reservations. So we have to discount and price accordingly with that.
Yeah. And I think understanding the principles that go behind it is what allows you to overlay it on different properties and different locations and different sizes, right? It's not necessarily that you need to be higher in October. It's that you need to understand that during your peak season, like we break it down to a percentage of revenue per month that we're expecting. So where is the highest percentage of revenue that you're expecting? What's the reason for that? Are you going to rent out 45 days in a month? Probably not, right? Not for one place at least, because there's only 31 days in a month. So looking at different ways that you can do that and how and why to implement this, I think is crucial.
Yep. And
But
it's not one of those where it's, let's say your ADR is 400 and you're like, I just need to hit an ADR 400 for every reason, you're stuck on that. And it's like, my occupancy, I want to have it 60%, and anything higher than that is gravy on top. I think some people think they're like, oh, well, great. Then how do I hit that? Well, it's $400 every day. And I will say, non-STR hosts as well, I think there's a perception that they'll ask us like, hey, well, what's the price of the cabin? My answer is always like, well, it depends. It depends on what cabin you're booking. It depends on, are you booking for this week? Are you booking for a year from now? Are you
yep,
booking a Friday? Are you booking a Monday?
yeah,
Are you booking a 1 night stay? Are you booking a 5 night stay? Like
yeah,
every single variable plays a role in that revenue management and that pricing strategy to essentially maximize the revenue potential in your property. And there
yeah,
will even be some days, like we were saying, 420 square foot house, a 2-1, we can get up to $700 to $800 a night. But we can also, when it's not as busy, that
yeah,
place rents out for $119 a night.
yep. I was going to say it's under 120.
Right.
And I just want to answer people. It's $120.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, awesome. I want to book it. It's like, okay, well, Tuesday, February 9th,
Mhm.
it's $119 and you can stay for one day because the next day it goes up,
Right.
So it is important. There's also, I think when we talk about like the revenue management part of it, we're not talking about ADR specifically there. ADR is just one side of the equation.
Right.
That really pushes that, but the overall revenue. So you could maximize revenue by not having 100% occupancy, right? There are people that do that, that say, I want to charge a little bit more and I'm going to make more actual dollars into my bank account by having that 70, 80% occupancy range. Goes into a lot of different factors, but that's important to look at here because we're not adjusting ADR to make more money. We're adjusting ADR to maximize occupancy, right? So, or to get the occupancy in that sweet spot where it's going to maximize the overall transfers into our bank account at the end of the day. And I think occupancy is a great gauge to tell you how you're doing. Are you too cheap? Are you too expensive? Right. As you continue to move forward.
Right. And I think, and I'll admit, at times I think of, when I think revenue management, I always think price. I think pricing. What's my nightly rate? That's all I think.
Yep.
But it's way more than that, to where it's almost, in a way, you could term it as like revenue/calendar management, right? Your revenue
Mm-hmm.
management strategy plays into, okay, well, I don't want someone to just book Friday because maybe that totally botches my weekend, right? Because now I have Saturday and Sunday open, but what's the likelihood that someone's going to book just a Saturday? You might get some
Right.
people, you definitely can, but
Right.
you're limiting your chances versus most people. It's, if they're booking the weekend, it's a Friday, Saturday, checkout Sunday type of deal.
Yep.
And that's where you start to, implement these stay for 3-night discounts, or have where your 2-night minimums or your 1-night minimums. Like, how soon do you allow only 1-night stays? Do you allow it for the entire year? Do you wait until it's within 30 days? I think that's where people, the pricing is one thing, but being able to fill your calendar effectively and strategically can also help you have a huge bump in that revenue. Because if you have like I said, like someone books for 1 night on a Friday, maybe that was all they needed. Great. But now you have to find someone that would want to come in on a Saturday or a Saturday, Sunday, and check out Monday.
Well, and it's like you said too, like if someone's booking for a year from now and they just want, Friday night, but that your typical reservation is Thursday through Saturday. Well, no, nobody can book Thursday through Saturday. So you just cut off all your future potential. To really understanding what it typically looks like, where it's not. We have a bunch of things that we had written down previously. It's like your Ocean days, the, balance between occupancy and demand. How does seasonality play into that? What does your weekend look like? Are they typically there 3 or 4 days? Are they typically there 1 or 2 days? All of those things play into it, and really understanding how to maximize it is what it's going to give you. Is like, if you have a Tuesday, Wednesday open, right, consistently, and you can't get those filled, well, then you can market differently. Hey, we've got this special for writers or for work remote people that want to go somewhere, right? And then all of a sudden you filled it. And what you've done is you've just taken a day that you would have made no revenue, and now you're making $200, $300, $400. Well, if you do that 52 weeks of the year, like, that's a big impact to your bottom line for a minimal investment in time to put that strategy together. All of that is automatable, if that's a word.
Yeah. And when we say automated, there's going to be some people out there. I can hear them right now. They're going to be like, you can't automate everything. It's like, I get it. You like that tone? I get that.
Dude, I'm going to say I can automatically delete this comment. That's for sure.
Yeah. But it's one of those where you automate it as much as you can. There's still going to be pieces where we have to go in and manually adjust prices, right? But when I say manual, what we're doing is I'll call them levers. We have our seasonal prices. We have our min, our max, and our base. Like, these are all levers that we pull, but it's a one-time setup initially, maybe with some tweaks and modifications along the way, of all of the details of our revenue management strategy. We utilize Price Labs within Price Labs, and then it's playing with these levers as you continue to understand and learn your market. Is okay. Maybe the minimum should have been a little bit more, or on the flip side, maybe the minimum should have been more. We didn't realize people would book it at this price. We could have bumped it up another, we could have bumped our minimum up by $20, $30.
So this is one of my favorite things to train people on, because as soon as they get it, you're like, oh, didn't think about this one, and it's like, you could just do that for hours. It's like, all right, I finally understand it. And you're like, cool. But what about like expectations and guest reviews? And they're like, how does that play into your revenue management? Well, it's like, if you're getting $700 a night, but it's a 400 square foot cabin, it's like, do you want to put up, if you're at 90% occupancy, do you want to make that $1,200 a night? Maybe. Or maybe you think that the guest expectation at $1,200 a night is going to be so unbelievably high, and that the cabin doesn't demand that. So you leave it a little bit lower just to make sure that the flywheel continues to move, views and all that. But I think there's so many things that play into it. It does get real complex real quick. And I think one of the things that you actually said that I'm like, just so stoked that we did in our business is, don't ever change it for the day. Don't ever block it and adjust it for that one day. Go in and change the actual strategy so that, today, September 2024 will help September 2025, right? So that next year we don't have to think about it, because we adjusted the strategy. We adjusted the core and the base and the foundation of what we're doing, instead of just that one day where we would have to redo that next year if we didn't.
Yep. Exactly. And I think you made a good point. I think some people will everyone wants to talk about revenue management because I think it's very popular, it's beneficial, but a lot of people don't know how to do it effectively. And I will admit, we are still very much learning as we're going with this stuff. We are leaps and bounds to where we are, and we are very confident in the strategy we have put in place today. But with a full expectation, it's going to be even better tomorrow. It's going to be even better a year from now.
We did have months though, where we went through this for, 2 or 3 months, like looking in Price Labs and looking at the settings and looking at all the different options that we had, and then thinking through what it looked like, and then testing and failing and testing and failing and testing and failing. And the failing wasn't bad for the business. It just wasn't maximizing, right? We're like, okay, we got a 2% lift. Is that worth it? And then the most recent one that we put together, 4 or 5 months ago now, was that was the one where it was the largest single day revenue increase that never went back down that I saw. Where all of a sudden the next day we were seeing bigger reservations and bigger reservations and just kept on climbing because of how we'd set it up, compounded with marketing photos, all the other things that we were doing. But we had those in place previously. And I think that was the proof point is you can theoretically look at this stuff all day long and be like, this is what would work. But until you see your bank account growing how you expect it to, that's bigger than what it was prior to making that change. Like you really haven't nailed it. And revenue management it's like cutting the grass, right? Like instant gratification. You go out there and like string trim and get your lawnmower out there, and all of a sudden you're like, this looks great, right? You do a good revenue management, right? Revenue management strategy implementation in an automated format. A week after you implement that, you should see more money coming in your bank or higher dollar amount in your reservations, and then creeping up occupancy within 7 days.
And I do want to lead with revenue management is a tool in the tool chest. So if you have terrible photos, you have terrible guest reviews, you have all this stuff, but you're like, oh my gosh, but I have implemented the most robust, fantastic revenue management strategy. This is going to solve all my problems.
Yeah.
Will it help maybe give you a bump in revenue? Potentially, because maybe you're booking it, maybe you're pricing it at like $40 a night and you were getting the worst guest possible come in and the market's like, you could actually be charging, $100 a night and you get better guests as a result of it.
Yeah.
But it's not, as with anything in this business, there's no just one button you press and it fixes all your issues, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, well, let me press the revenue management strategy button. All my problems go away. I'm going to get $5,000 a night per reservation. This is going to be great. Like that's just unfortunately not going to happen, but it's a tool in the tool chest. And it's an area that if just think about it, and this goes to this unique stacking or just even skill stacking in general, revenue management, marketing, listing optimization, like you take guest communication, you take all of these and you stack these on top of each other. And if you do them well and you can do them in a unique manner, those are the type of properties and places that will outperform everyone else who's just saying, okay, well, I put in 3 numbers in price up and I'm going to kick back and I took photos on my iPhone and I haven't changed my listing in over a year. Why am I not getting reservations? And those are the people, unfortunately, that they need these additional skills even more, but unfortunately they don't realize it because they're just looking for the one button to press. Like, I'll just run Facebook ads. That'll solve everything. Everyone will see my property now. And as you are well aware, Facebook ads do not solve everyone's problems. And at times it will cost people more money than they realize.
I was going to say, it's a quick way to run out of money. That's for sure.
Yes. So,
but I agree. I think that it is so important that it's a business, right? This is a very active business. And I love when people are like, oh my gosh, like there's so many people coming into the market. I'm like, that's cool. I bought a Yeti the other day. And Yeti is still competing against all the other vacuum seal mugs that are out there as well. And it's like, there's people out there. If you treat it like a business and you're not afraid of the other people coming into the market and whatnot, that's going to help. But the revenue management side of it, my favorite thing about it is it will compound on every change you make after that.
Yep.
Right. There's a couple of people that we met with recently that were looking at, things to upgrade and whatnot to do to their unit and make it more unique. And like one of the girls had a great idea. She wanted to do a mural behind her bed. And I was like, that's fantastic. And we started talking about it and taking that image and putting it as her homepage image. And she's like, well, I don't want that to be my homepage. I want this to be my homepage. And I was like, well, what's the point of the mural? And then you really have to understand like what the functionality of the thing that you're doing is. And revenue management has a very specific, clear use case functionality. If you're not getting traffic to your listing, don't start there. Get 10 reservations, then go implement your revenue management strategy. You got other things to do first. But once you do implement your revenue management strategy, if you add a killer hot tub, helicopter pad, whatever you want, some unique thing that's going to increase the awareness of it, it's going to continue to increase that through that seasonality and demand-based, the demand-based rule sets that you put in there, where if all of a sudden, TikTok takes off and shows 100,000 people your site and all of a sudden your direct booking site is getting all this traffic, it's going to instantly increase your prices.
Yep.
Right. And what's going to happen is you're going to wind up texting your, spouse, business partner, mother, father, whatever you want, a screenshot of the reservation that comes in at $700 a night, being like, I can't believe this just happened. Like, why is someone renting this for this? So it's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's one of those, what's nice about it. Let's say you have a nice property, you want to add things to it. Once you have the strategy in place, like we said, there's these knobs you're going to constantly be turning to fine tune. But once it's in place, then as you add amenities, being able to properly price for that in the future becomes so much easier to modify. So add a hot
Mhm.
tub, where would you start? Okay, well, let's just bump all of our mins if you have seasonal pricing set in place and your base, bump it up $50 a night. So, yeah, start somewhere. And what you can do is start testing. Like, okay, and we did this for the Stoic when we added the hot tub. We set our price. We're like, let's see what that does. And it was like, okay, 7 days out, we're 100% occupied. 30 days, we're 90%. Okay, we are priced still way too low.
Yep.
Let's go up another 50. And what you need to do with this strategy is really understand what your low and your high is, right?
Yep.
Because in my mind, I never thought the Stoic or any of these tiny cabins would ever rent out for more than $400 a night. Like I remember,
Mhm.
sure, we got a $400 reservation. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And we've gotten 5 or 6, $700 to $750 per night reservations already this year.
Yep.
And it's again, don't let your limiting beliefs limit the price that you could charge for your property that someone would be
Yep.
willing to pay. Now, don't go out and charge $750 a night for a Tuesday in February in Kentucky because they are not going to pay that
Yeah.
on high demand. But
Yeah.
so
It goes back to the creating value, creating, the emotional connection that you want with the add-ons that you have that we talked about in that other training where, this is hand in hand for that. Like if you want to know whether or not you're providing value to somebody, charge that much for a tiny house and see if someone books it. Right. And I think this is it. Like mid-October, leads are changing, couples are peak, let's go do something before the holidays, get away, reconnect. Like, and then you've got this experience where they can sit in a hot tub, drink a cocktail, coffee, whatever they want, overlook the mountains. Like that is actually creating, in my opinion, the most valuable thing in the entire world, right? Which is human connection with the people that you love. And I will credit Dustin Baker until I'm like blue in the face for it. But he said, we sell the best product in the entire world. We sell reconnection. We sell quality time with family. We sell disconnection from work. We sell experiences. We sell core memories, all those things. And that's exactly what that does. And the revenue management strategy that backs it just gets it in front of the people that all want that are willing to pay the most for it. So we've created $700 a night in value to a couple individuals, which is exciting.
it is amazing. And this is a little bit off topic from revenue management, but it goes to the point of, you know, tapping into this human connection and disconnecting and what people want and the emotion that they're willing to pay to go experience at your property. We are seeing that exact thing happen on our social accounts across Instagram and TikTok. We have a video right now that literally says, you have 48 hours to stay at this cabin. No phones, no interruptions. Who are you inviting? That's all it is. And it's an 8-second video, just goes through the property. That's it. So many people have commented or messaged us and be like, this is exactly what I need. Or even some people saying
Yep.
solo. I'm not inviting anyone. I'm going by myself. I just need a break. But it's
You know what? If it's a recharge visit for that person and they don't want to bring someone, perfect.
exactly. So it's the human connection, but then it's also just like giving them an opportunity to experience something that they need in their life at that moment. You're tapping into that emotion. And if you can do that complemented with a effective revenue management strategy, it's amazing because for that person, they are the cabin itself definitely want it to be unique, definitely be nice. But at that point, if you're marketing an experience to them, they at that point are paying for that experience and that emotion. Now, what you need to make sure you're doing is delivering on that emotion once they arrive at your property. Because the biggest letdown and the biggest hindrance to your business that could happen is you make this place look fantastic on social and they walk through the front door and the couch is broken or something's like
Yep.
that is an issue and that
Yep.
will come back to bite you.
I will say like, and this is probably a good closing point on the revenue management side is the better you implement your property or the better you set up your property, the better you implement your revenue management strategy, the more you need to put some reserves away, right? Whether you look at it as deposit liability for guests that haven't been there or refunds and chargebacks for whatever your business is doing, however you categorize it, make sure that you put some of that away because at that point, $700 a night, the expectation is that the hot tub's going to work. Right. So that's a responsibility that we have as business owners, where if the hot tub breaks, because we're human and hot tubs break, that's what happens. Right.
Yep.
So if the hot tub breaks, we need to take the value that we said we'd deliver and drop it down to the value that we did deliver cost wise. If they paid $700 a night and they valued that as a couple $100, like we need to be able to give them that back. to make sure that we can set the expectations or match the expectations that we're actually delivering on with that. But it is important that you don't just, set this strategy in place, put a cool, amenity out there, see it take off, and just greedily like keep all that in your pocket, even if you can't deliver, because you are changing the expectations and you're changing the promise that you're making to the guests to either provide it exactly like you said, Jordan, or if there is an issue, be prepared enough to make it right to
Right.
them.
Yeah. And I think too, so I was talking earlier about adding amenity and making sure you go increase the pricing. The revenue management strategy, if not managed properly, if you do add a killer hot tub and you all of a sudden are now 100% occupied and you go in and do nothing with your prices, then your revenue management strategy is hurting you because you didn't properly adjust for the accommodation. Now, would anyone do that? No, I would assume not. But at the same point in time,
You'd be surprised.
some people, I mean, I get it. The higher the experience that you have when a reservation comes in, like that is one feeling that I can explain it to people till I'm blue in the face, but until it actually happens to you, like it is the best feeling when you get a new
Yep.
reservation notification. It
Yep.
is absolutely amazing. I could see where some people would like, well, I'm not going to increase my prices. I'm 100% occupied. Like, this is amazing.
Yep.
I'm fully occupied, but they don't take into account that they're charging 30% less than they should be. So let's say they're 20% more occupied than they would be with better pricing. Now that's 20% more wear and tear in their business, or their
Yep.
property, which is going to result in having to replace that furniture
Yep.
more, which is going to cost them more out of pocket. As a
Yep.
result, is going to
It's a
cost.
long-term race to the bottom.
It really is. So it's, to wrap all this up, it's stacking all this together. One does not work by itself. It's these components. And that's why we talk very specifically today about revenue management. This is a key piece that if you could then take it with your marketing, your social media content, optimizing your listings, providing an amazing experience, like that is what we are seeing that allows these places to really outperform and stand out and actually be profitable short-term rentals. Because there are so many people out there. I was scrolling today through Facebook, and people are like, "Man, like, how's your September? Like, it's mine's empty." Or like, how's your occupancy? How are your bookings? Mine have never been worse, right?
We just got some messages from our cleaners saying that. Like, are your other cabins doing this well? Like, you guys are the only ones that I'm working with that are this busy.
Yep. Yeah.
So
And I think that's a testament to what we preach and what we try to teach and show people is there is a way to do it effectively. You just have to. I always say this, the days of being able to take a property, throw a bed in it, throw a couch, and you're printing money, those days are over. You're now competing against people who are providing experiences and amazing stays. Those are the ones that are doing well. Those are the ones that are rising to the top. And the people who are struggling, unfortunately, are the ones who are like, well, this worked for me 3 years ago. Why is it not working for me today? You have to adapt and continue to evolve. And where we're seeing things head is the unique experiential style stays.
it's spot on.
Yeah.
The word unique, like we're all about it. We'll go into that in more podcasts, but it is popping up everywhere right now. And it's just validation for all the stuff that we've been working on. It's awesome.
Yeah. And we're going to continue making our properties more and more unique, adding more and more things. I know we already got a second hot tub plan for one of our properties out in Kentucky, which we are excited about. I can't speak to our handyman. But he's gonna love it. I think the satisfaction you get as someone who actually builds something like that, you step back and be like, wow, like, I built that. In a sense, he is a key part of what we do day in and day out. Because right now, I could not take a hot tub and put it in between two boulders or up on top of a boulder. Like, we had the idea and it's like, great. I'm not doing that. I can't do that. I don't have that skill set to where, again, story for another day, but a handyman or anyone who's doing the actual work for you, treat them like they're God, essentially. Like, if you get a good one, hold on to them tight and treat them the right way. So it's
agreed.
It'll be exciting once hot tub number 2's up. So then we'll go in and we'll modify our revenue management strategy and it'll be good. So, but anything else with revenue management, I could talk. It's one of those topics, like, at surface level, it may seem boring, but it's like, it's a very critical piece and a key component to a profitable short-term rental.
Yeah. I don't think we have anything else. We did put the training together. So reach out to us, just shoot us a message if you guys are interested. It's Priceline specific, but it goes through the theory of what we do far out, what we do for orphan days, like all the details of that and what to actually, or how to actually implement that in a good way.
Yep. And I will also include that in the show notes as well with the
Cool.
link to be able to get to that revenue management strategy training. So, alrighty. Well, that does it. Another amazing episode of the Hideaway Show Behind the Curtain edition. I'm Jordan Holmes. He's Mike Sebastian. Until next time, take care, everyone.